So we've touched a little bit on XDefiant recently and some updates made to the game's development in the last couple of days, but today I wanted to take some time to go over everything that we've seen and heard for XDefiant that's of relevant information for you while we anticipate the release here upcoming at some point in the next few, well, could be days, weeks, or months, but today I want to give you a detailing of everything you need to know so that you're in the loop on everything that we know so far with XDefiant and the offering here upcoming. As we go along, drop your thoughts down below on what you're looking forward to the most with XDefiant, and if you'll be jumping in. As well, if you enjoy the video, you'll find it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing to stay there with all things XDefiant, Modern Warfare 3, and other FPS content here on the channel. It's going to be a busy couple of months here upcoming, so if you'd like to stay on top of all of that, I'd love to have you in the community. Finally, check out my friends over at G Fuel for 30% off your order with code ESPRESSO on certain things like the tubs of hype sauce, MS Melon, and hibiscus tea, as well as starter kits linked below, but more on that a little later. For now, let's jump into our guide and recap on everything we know about XDefiant. First, well, what is XDefiant? It's a free-to-play first-person arcade shooter developed by Ubisoft with plenty of talent from the classic era of COD games, and it's taking a main focus at that arcade shooter 6v6 mentality here that core COD games focused on in the past. Headed up by Mark Rubin, previous executive producer at Infinity Ward, working on games like COD 4, Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 3, and his latest of work on the franchise was COD Ghost, as well as a great team surrounding him. The crew is focused on this love letter to the arcade shooter genre that's been through a couple of playtests and should be coming out here relatively soon. Now, if you want to jump in and play on this, it is of course going to be free to play, but available on PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X and S. Cross-platform available on that as well, with input-based matchmaking, so if you want to play controller on PC, chances are you're going to get matched up with other controller players for PlayStation and Xbox. But if you play on, say, mouse and keyboard on PlayStation 5, you get matched up with other mouse and keyboard players as well. Last-gen support is coming, but it's going to be coming post-launch. So for those that are interested on playing on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, this right now is done so as to not hinder any game development that we'll see in regards to the current and base game going forward, which is a nice approach, I think. Yes, it does kind of suck to see that there will be that discrepancy in terms of release dates for current and last generation, but it's also prioritizing the version of the game that will likely have a much larger population over time, even if not necessarily now per se. I'd still wager that it's probably relatively even in between current and last gen console availability, but XDefiant as a result won't be held back in any developmental choices made for last generation players now, as the player numbers will dwindle in time as more and more people upgrade in the future years. So that said, that's where we'll be able to play it. The release date, currently it's only slated for summer 2023 as a release window. That was revealed on June 12th at the Ubisoft Forward 2023 event, and since then we've heard the game is in a bunch of different approval processes here for this, ironing out bugs, getting the build entirely solid, so then it can go through final approvals and eventually be released to all of us. So right now, the end of summer, if we're getting technical this year, is September 23rd. So we still have a little bit of time, but it is something that we can expect it maybe within the next month or so here at this point. But again, as of recording this, nothing particularly known. Now, once it does release, how can you access the game? Well, again, it'll be free to play, so all you have to do is go to your store of the platform of choice, the PlayStation Store, Microsoft Store. On PC, it will be on Ubisoft's client. I don't think they've specified yet if they're going to have it available on Steam as well, though if you do that, it just sends a signal to boot it from Ubisoft, so it's kind of the same thing anyway. But all you have to do is go to that platform store of choice and simply access the game and download it, because it will be free to play. There will be no barrier of entry. Now, once the game does launch, we'll end up having a handful of launch content that we already know of, that including 14 maps, 10 of which focused on 6v6 multiplayer combat on the maps of Arena, Attica Heights, Dumbo, Echelon, Emporium, Liberty, Mayday, Noodleplex, Pueblito, and Showtime, and 4 progression-based maps for your escort modes on Meltdown, Midway, Times Square, and Zoo. Those maps being fundamentally larger simply because there's checkpoints involved with each of those. So 14 maps, again, across 2 variable different ways to play the game, but 14 maps at launch no less. Modes will end up seeing Domination, Occupy, and Hotshot, as well as Escort and Zone Control based off of what we've already seen so far. It's possible there are more coming, but those are the only 5 detailed in our immediate understanding of the launch and what is coming. We'll see 5 factions, each with their own abilities, passives, actives, and ultimates, those including the Cleaners, which is a play on The Division, Libertad, a play on Far Cry, Echelon, a play on Splinter Cell, Phantoms, a play on Ghost Recon, and DedSec, a play on Watch Dogs. We'll see 24 weapons with 44 attachments across the board here, those including the M4A1, the AK-47, the M16, the ACR 6.8, the MP5 45A2, Vector 45 ACP, P90, MP7, the M870, the double barrel shotgun, the AA12, the M249 LMG, the RPK74, the M60, the MK20 SSR and SVD, the M44, the TAC-50, the M9, the 6.86 Magnum, the M1911, the D50, and the 93R. Again, all with attachments across the board that can be accommodated for almost any build that you could imagine. Now, one thing that will be coming that is already seen, already known about is the practice course that you can end up taking advantage of whenever the game fully launches. This going to have things like a firing range, practice dummies and targets, an area where those dummies will actually interact with you in a variable number of different ways that you can control, a practice course you can run. There's just a whole lot that you can end up doing to simply hone in on your aim, your ability skills, things like that to improve your game without actually having to go into game and sacrifice any stats if you are somebody that cares about that kind of stuff. That's going to be an awesome addition here that will be coming at launch alongside all of what we've already mentioned. So that's the launch content. One thing that I think is imperative to note and that anybody will really point out to you whenever you talk about XDefiant and the coming launch of the game, it's something that has been seen already within the betas, though because the betas were a much smaller sample size, you might not notice it as much. But one of the big selling points to a lot of players is the return of a potential like casual play experience, because there's not going to be skill-based matchmaking within normal matchmaking. Ranked play will have skill-based matchmaking attached to it, but that is something that the regular 6v6 experience, it's going to utilize matchmaking of past Call of Duty games where ping and network is king, but whenever a lobby is created, that's when we'll see some team balancing kick in. So it doesn't have any sort of skill parameters to pull players in to specific matches. Instead, it's just going to be luck of the draw on who you get. Maybe you get some good matches, maybe you get some bad ones, but that's kind of how it goes. But that's what you can expect to see when the game actually launches. On top of that, we'll see things, of course, like camo challenges being introduced and camos available to grind out for what seems like progression, and also mastery challenges coming alongside that, as we've detailed in the past, as well as additional rewards that are planned to be included here with the launch or shortly thereafter. Things like kill streak based reactive camos is something that was thrown around out there, but a bunch of stuff is still coming on top of that are smaller degrees of details, but there's going to be no shortage of stuff to grind out here whenever you jump into the game first and foremost. Now, that's launch again, but let's talk a little bit about after launch. Once the game launches, that's going to kickstart a preseason where this is going to last then 6 weeks after, or roughly. That could be something that is subject to change, but as of right now, it's stated to be a 6-week preseason. But after that 6 weeks is up, that's when we jump into year one content support. From here, Ubisoft has already detailed a year one roadmap in which it will include 4 different seasons, each coming along with a new faction, 3 new weapons, 3 new maps, and a 90-tier battle pass. So 4 seasons across 12 months. If you do the math there, it's a season every 3 months, with again a lot of intervals of 3 here. 3 new weapons, 3 new maps, so presumably perhaps 1 every month if they're not going to drop them all at once. But on top of that, we also will see that there's new arena and progression modes coming throughout the year, ranked modes, private matches, caster cams, and stuff like that for perhaps a budding esports wing, ongoing work to keep the game fair and balanced, so anti-cheat perhaps at that point, and additional things to the practice zones, and new welcome items for beginners. So that's the actual content you can expect to see within that first year, but beyond that, we've also heard of additional features and fundamental items being introduced to the game as time goes on as well. One of the biggest ones being a prestige mode, something that has been commented on a couple of times. The idea was thrown out there and it was confirmed that it would be something post-launch, not coming at launch, but Mark Rubin took to Twitter at one point to say, "I saw some thoughts on prestige from players. We've been aiming at a classic system that stops at say 10, but I've seen comments about adding more levels every season. Not resetting, but just adding more. So what do you think?" With a poll that would allow you to vote on either classic 10 prestiges or to have new levels introduced progressively each season. About 71% of the respondents wanted a classic 10 prestige system that stops at 10 prestiges, and 28.5 wanted new levels every season. So it seems like the classic system that we are used to in the air quote golden era of Call of Duty seems like that is something that very well could be coming back here. Of course, as we mentioned earlier in the video, PlayStation 4 and Xbox One ports are as well coming post-launch, so last generation will be eventually able to play the game, but just not at launch. Right now, there is no ETA on that, so just be conscious that it could be something that comes with a Season 1 rollout, or it could be something that comes like 7-8 months down the line, maybe longer. There is no ETA, but it is something that will be coming later on down the line. There was the confirmation that eventually we're going to see some competitive side introduced, of course, with a ranked play there at launch. That's, of course, always going to be something that's pretty cool to look at. And with no skill-based matchmaking within the standard matchmaking for multiplayer, you don't have to worry about anything in there. But then in ranked, that's where you can see that competition come out, where skill-based matchmaking and an elo system will be in place for that. Beyond that, we're going to see some possible introductions after launch of things, again, like those reactive streak-based camos, where Mark Rubin chimed in at one point saying, we don't want to just put your typical COD kill streaks in the game, but we are thinking outside the box for ways to reward and celebrate streaks. I thought the reactive camo idea from the thread he was referring to was pretty cool. So the way that I think of that is kind of like how we talked about beforehand, Black Ops 4's Dark Matter. Before it was updated and patched and kind of made easier to acquire those higher tiers of Dark Matter, if you unlocked it early in the game's life cycle, it was something that had reactive properties. Every 5 kills you got on your kill streak changed the reactive state of Dark Matter. However, in those earlier months, to acquire the highest reactive state, you had to go on a 30 kill streak. Later on, it was just something you had to get 30 kills in a game to acquire, but if we see camos rewarded like that, that'd be pretty cool. Additionally, theater mode is something that is in consideration, as is a fully customizable HUD, among some other things, but a lot of stuff is still going to be going into the game here post-launch and even after the game is shipped to all of us. So that said, this is something that is going to be a progressive build, something that XDefiant is going to launch, but in theory, it can get better over time here as time progresses. So that is where we're at, and that's just about everything you need to know about XDefiant here at the end of July as we wait for this to eventually launch. But for now, just wanted to fill you guys in on everything you needed to know and keep you up to date with absolutely everything. So before we wrap everything up, make sure you check out my friends over at G Fuel. Code Espresso gets you 30% off your entire order on certain items like Hype Sauce, Hibiscus Tea, MS Melon, and things like starter kits as well. So if you guys want to grab a restock, try something out for the very first time, now is as best a time as any. Use code Espresso, link down there in the description below if you guys want to check it out. But that is what we're going to call it. So let me know your thoughts down below. Are you looking forward to XDefiant? Can't wait. What are the case? Drop your thoughts down below. If you enjoyed the video, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing to stay up to date with all things XDefiant, Modern Warfare 3, and other FPS content. We got a lot of stuff upcoming here in the next couple of months, man. I mean, we got XDefiant, we got Starfield, we got Modern Warfare 3, a lot of cool stuff upcoming that I personally am excited for as a gamer. But we'll keep it up to date with XDefiant, Modern Warfare 3, and all that good stuff. So if you guys are interested, I'd love to have anything community. But for now, thanks so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you later. Take care and peace.